Today it was confirmed that Tokyo Mirage Session Encore would be based on the Western localization. This also increased speculation because Atlus did go on to update the official website for Tokyo Mirage Session Encore to show the censored images. However, I'm not so sure we should dismiss an uncensored version coming out just yet. It wasn't really, I've seen this article pop up all day, and I'm kind of glad I was at work before waiting to cover this, because JRPG over on Twitter pointed out some really interesting stuff that I just kind of want to highlight and talk about. He says, there's a few things you need to get straight. Atlus handled the localization for Tokyo Mirage Session, not Nintendo. Being based on the Western version doesn't mean cut content DLC from the original will remain cut for Encore. Atlus using the Western version as a base makes sense. The Western version had its own exclusive content, it had performance optimizations, and is the latest version. If you're trying to get a one step ahead of where you are now, you don't take 2 steps back and then 3 forward. I'm 99.9% certain that Encore will include all outfits from both versions. I'm confident that the Japanese exclusive content like the Hot Springs DLC will be included in Encore. And someone went on to say, was Atlus directed at Ninty to make changes? I'm really going to need to hear your explanation of your second point. Because something based off of a version, wouldn't it mean it inherits what made that specific version special? And JRPG did put, no, Nintendo specifically requested that Atlus handle the localization to ensure that it felt like an Atlus game. Being based on a particular version means that it's just based, not carbon copy. Dragon Quest XI's is based on the PS4 version. It also has its own exclusive content and 3DS content. There are many reasons a developer might base a remaster or a remake on a particular version. It might run better, it may be coded better, it might serve as the base for any number of reasons. I don't believe it for a second that Encore is not going to include swimsuit outfits. And then he goes on to say, a lot of people probably need to think a little bit before jumping to conclusions. The rest of us who understand what based on means will wait for confirmation on what is and isn't making cut content. So I think he's got a lot of credible things there. I'm still gonna wait and see Atlus's official confirmation what they're going for. Another thing he did say here that I kind of wanted to point out, still in active development, so they're likely deciding what will and won't make the cut. Hypothetically, if they're currently working on something like porting the Hot Springs DLC over, I imagine they want to have it complete before telling us that it's in there. And I guess that makes sense because maybe the optimization of that isn't something that's going to work out. It's extremely hard to say. But I do think what he's saying there does have some credibility or credit. If the Western version truly was the better version because it was optimized better and it had some of the works and kinks that the Japanese version had, it makes sense to start there and then go back. Honestly, this might be how some remasters actually start, because you have heard in cases where games from different regions run better. Particularly one of the big ones that I can remember, the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation back in the day, they had slower frame rates in European versions. So using a European remaster to bring one of those games forth might not be the best way to do it. So they might take the US version and make it run better. We also see this in the speedrunning community as well, where speedrunners will play certain versions because they are better optimized. They maybe have faster loading times or things like that. I think it's either Banjo-Kazooie or Ocarina of Time that has that particular method moving forward where they will use the Chinese version of the game because it has that better loading times. Therefore, it cuts down on the loading times and makes for a faster run. So I think that has a lot of sense. This is something that I'm going to continue to keep my eye on and cover uncover information as it comes along. You guys are interested in helping out, please by all means tweet it out to me on Twitter, because I don't always get to see all of the news that pops up, unfortunately, because work does get in the way sometimes, and I don't get to catch all that news. But when news breaks, what's actually going to be included and what's not, and what's the officially what's going to be in there, because Encore to me would suggest that they're kind of making like a definitive version, right? So if you're just going off the local Western localization and removing a lot of the cut content, it's not really a Encore version at that point. It's just a simple port with enhanced, better graphics. So only time's going to tell. I do think we need to take a few steps back and kind of wait to get more information on this before we jump to conclusions. I'm not saying that I agree with the censorship. I'm not saying the way that I don't agree. If they are, kind of leading us on a little bit and don't want to reveal too much, that's kind of a weird way to go in and market it. And you guys know how I feel about censorship. You guys know I absolutely hate the thought of games coming over and being censored. But I think we need to wait and see. And JRPG is a rather credible source when it comes to Japanese RPGs. He does have a lot of insider knowledge when it comes to that, a lot of sources. He's kind of my go-to a lot of times for a lot of the bigger Japanese news. Him and Shadow Elite tend to get a lot of things right. And if you're not subscribed to their channels, I highly recommend doing so. So as we get more information, I will cover it, what JRPG has to say. I probably won't do a video because I don't want to make a carbon copy of his, but if there's some added information or articles or just sources that he has that he can link, I might make a follow-up video to this one. But I'm not ready just to jump on the conclusion just yet that this is going to be completely censored, even though Atlas kind of said that it was based upon. I'm going to hold off, wait a little bit, and we're going to see what happens. If you guys want to stay up to date on the situation and find out all the latest information that's going on, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring that bell notification so you guys can keep up to date with those videos as they go live. You guys have been watching Gaming with Spoons, your #1 source for all things Japanese gaming related. And follow me on Facebook and Twitter, links down below in the description box. Twitch as well, where we will be streaming the video games that we are playing and reviewing for the channel. Most importantly, stay happy, be happy, game happy. Spoons is checking out.